Welcome back to another edition of Elevate Your Grind, brought to you by the Cannabis Lab. I am your host, Todd Rosales, and this is the first show of the week. We've had some scheduling issues, folks, so we only had one episode last week. We only have one episode this week, but you get to see so much more of C-Lab this week than just me. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, we are going to have our Meet the Leadership panel. So this is where you can be able to meet everybody who is on the leadership team at Cannabis Lab. We've got a lot of great people from around the country that are going to be on. It's your chance to ask them questions, find out what C-Lab's all about, find out how C-Lab helped a lot of us. A lot of people don't realize my whole career in the cannabis space was based on being a part of C-Lab. Although you see me for the conference, the podcast every day, it wasn't until I joined C-Lab that I was able to really take care of a lot of opportunities. So join us tomorrow at 6 p.m. You can find information about that at joinclab.com. Of course, if you go to joinclab.com, the one thing that's going to punch you in the face is our conference. Yes, folks, we are having a conference, but don't worry, it will be socially distanced. Masks will be required. We're going to be doing temperature checks, the whole nine. Attendance will be limited. Now, if you are worried and you are taking extra precaution, and we are all for that, you can attend the conference virtually as well. The cost is going to be the same, so it's your choice. Either attend in person, attend virtually. We want you there either way, so certainly look forward to joining us on February 6th. If you are a member of C-Lab, you get into the conference for free. So for those of you that really enjoy the content, really enjoy the panels, you want to go to the conference for free, why not become a member? It is a great value and you should definitely take advantage of it. So again, February 6th, Sacred Space Miami, annual C-Lab conference. Don't miss it. We want to see you there. All right, folks, the last thing I'm going to tell you before we get into today's guest, we had an awesome interview last week with Daniel Abrahami. He is one of the founders at Headquarters. It was a great conversation. We do industry trends, where we've been, where we're going. We talk about marketing. We talk about so many different things. It's one of my favorite conversations. Absolutely check that out. And you can find that at youtube.com/elevateyourgrind, along with all 109 of our other episodes as well. So take your time. You can listen in the car. You can find them on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeart, wherever you listen to podcasts. Find your favorite podcast and then search for us. You'll find us there. All right. Getting to our guest today. My guest today, we talk a lot about people in the ancillary businesses here, right? It's weird to me that when you go to any conference, most of the quote unquote industry experts, myself included, we're in the ancillary, right? They're investors, lawyers, accountants, podcasters for some reason, influencers, if you will, right? We look at people who know this industry best, but people don't realize, where do we get our information? We get our information from the companies themselves, the feet on the street, the people that are in the fields, they're on the front line and they're doing the work. So although we get the acknowledgement for having the knowledge, we're just getting it from the people that are doing it firsthand. On that note, I've got an awesome brand with me here today. One of the markets that I am truly, truly excited about next year is going to be Michigan. They operate in both Michigan and California. So without any further ado, please welcome Ben and Vinnie Celani from High Life Farms. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So first question I got to ask, we have one family farm here in the state of Florida, and I asked it of them first, what is it like going into business with family? How are you guys handling that?
It's honestly great. I mean, me and Ben both handle different attributes of the business. Ben's purely a grower and knows everything about genetics and how to set up the rooms, and he's really a master grower in the truest sense of the word, whereas I head up sales and everything else.
Very cool, man. So, I mean, it's nice that you guys were able to find a diverse skill set within the family. How big is the family? Is it just you two, or are there more family members involved as well?
Our father's involved, and we have a sister as well who has another cannabis brand herself for cannabis accessories.
Very cool. So, I told you I try to do as much research as I can before the show. So, your dad and the family, obviously, not too many people have cannabis backgrounds, right? At least official cannabis backgrounds, because it's only been legal for so long. Your dad comes from a really cool entrepreneurial background in the form of wine, casinos, and even a Harley-Davidson dealership. Did you guys get involved in any of that growing up? I'm sure you were around it.
Yeah,
I think the biggest thing we got involved with him was probably the wine. We were very young growing up when he was doing that kind of stuff, but he instilled in us his love and passion for wine and growing grapes and things like that. So I think it also just I really think that was the biggest thing we worked with him on was the vineyard.
Yeah, and he should have started work from the ground up. I mean, he started us sweeping floors at Harley-Davidson, the machine shop, and then working our way up over the years. So it's really been a slow progression, and he's made us work for it, for sure.
It's funny, so I worked for my dad when I was a kid too, not anywhere as cool as you guys did with a winery and a casino and a Harley-Davidson dealership. It was just a regular oil change shop. But it's funny, until you get to that like upper echelon of people, there's that negative connotation of going to work for family because people think nepotism's involved. But in reality, when you work for family, you're learning the whole business. And I think your dad did it right by starting you guys by sweeping the floors. But, you guys can come on this as well. It's kind of weird because work doesn't stay at work, right? So you're working with family. And if you mess up at work, you're hearing about it at dinner, you're hearing about it at night. How is that growing up?
I mean, it's definitely interesting. It's definitely changed the dynamic over the last few years. I mean, we're pretty much all we talk about is cannabis now. But I mean, I think it's good and it's productive.
Yeah, I really don't think we've ever had a huge issue with it. I mean, we have our differences at work sometimes, but for us as a family, I really don't think we take too much the aggression home. I mean, at the end of the day, even if we disagree on something, it's not too big of a deal to us.
For sure.
Okay. Very cool. So how do you all go from wine and casinos and motorcycles and all the cool stuff to cannabis? I mean, was it just, hey, what other cool stuff can we put in our portfolio, or was this something that your generation wanted to start?
Well, we wanted to start it, but I mean, we come from a compliance background, so it's kind of easy to roll over from alcohol distribution, casinos, and then into cannabis, just because we've been under such stringent regulations over the years. So it's a nice mix between me and Ben and our father. We all kind of do different things, where my father's more on the legislative end, trying to get things done. Me and Ben handle the day-to-day.
I mean, that's the coolest part, is that you have somebody who can specialize in each one. So Ben, if I remember correctly, you're the cultivation guy, correct?
Yep, I do all the cultivation here in Michigan, and I even help out in California a little bit as well.
And then Vinny, you're out in California?
Yeah, I'm out in California. I handle sales for us out here and marketing.
So how'd you get the better weather out of the two of you?
I think it was just luck of the draw, to be honest. I mean, in the beginning, me and Ben were both out here in California, and he ended up moving back to Michigan after. So formally, before we got into California, we're in Colorado, which was kind of our trial by fire out there. We had a small grow and small dispensary. So we kind of learned the market there, and then transitioned into California and Michigan, learning what we did from that.
Very cool. So I want to back up and kind of get that started too. So just real quick, I want to apologize to everybody. Usually I have our guests on the screen in front of me, so it looks like we're having a conversation. That's not working right now, which is why you keep seeing me turn to my right, because that's where my computer screen is. So I'm not crazy. This is just where my guests are today, folks. But so let's get kind of to the beginning of Highlight Farms, right? So I'm assuming by the time when you guys decided to start operations, that cannabis was not legal in Michigan, or at least not in the form that we see it today. It was a little bit more restrictive to get into the market. Was it just like, hey, we want to get into cannabis, the way to do that is to go out to California and get started? Or were you out there for the wine business already? I'm just trying to figure out what I'm always kind of obsessed with in the cannabis space is going from nothing to something, right? At some point you guys were doing different things. I know that each of you had different positions within different companies, but all of a sudden you form together and you want to start Highlight Farms. Is it, let's look for some land, let's get licensed? Just give me kind of the genesis stories of Highlight.
So it really all starts in 2014. There was a partnership that was proposed out in DHS, which is our current facility that we are operating out there right now. That's really what got us into cannabis. That's when I came out to California. I started working with a collective out in Canoga Park in LA. And that's really where I started learning growing, working in cultivation and working in dispensaries as well. After that, we ended up moving on from that project at the time and moved out to Denver, where we partnered with another grow and dispensary out there. And then the laws and everything kind of really started to shape up in 2016 and 17 in Michigan out here. And we grew up out here. Michigan's our home. My dad started all of his businesses out here, so our roots are really, really strong here in Michigan. So it made a lot of sense for us to take part in what was happening out here. So around 16, 17, I came back out here from Denver and started working on the Michigan project. And we were actually very lucky in Michigan. We were able to get the first legal license, but we were also granted one of the only temporary licenses by the village of Chesaning, which is where our facility is located. But essentially, it allowed us to start cultivating around 4,000 plants a year before official state licenses were given out. So it very much gave us a head start to get out there and start the project very early.
That's awesome. And did you guys, did the family kind of all agree together, like, hey, this is going to be a family business and we're going to get involved? Or did one of you come first and then pull the rest of you in as more positions were needed? Or, just trying to figure out the decision?
Sorry, they kind of gave us a choice in the matter. I mean, at the time I was going in the casino business, so I was being licensed and going through that whole process. And they kind of gave us, it's either this or cannabis. And honestly, I saw more growth through cannabis and less on the casino side. So I thought this would be more fun. And it has been so far.
For most red-blooded American men, that's a very tough decision. Do I want to work in casinos or do I want to work in cannabis, man? Throw like a brewery and racing in there, and that's like the holy trifecta.
Yeah, it was easy path for sure.
So that's cool. So you guys get started, and you have background. I'm sure some of the wine experience transfers over to cannabis, but do you know what you're doing at this point, or is a lot of just trial and error of figuring out, like, how do we get plants in the ground? How do we grow them? How much light do they need? How do we set up our rooms? Are we gonna do big rooms? Are we gonna do small rooms? Do greenhouses? We're gonna do indoor? We're gonna do outdoor? How do you guys kind of make these decisions to move forward? Because you, at least where you were before, you're in a really unique spot where people don't know your brand, but you guys are doing really well. Because I saw that something like 80% of your business is wholesale. You're just focusing really on cultivation, which is great. People don't realize the opportunity there, because in a lot of states, you either are working towards vertical integration or it's required to be vertically integrated, where you guys can kind of sell it. I don't want to, almost like a commodity, right? Where you're selling it just like any other crop that's being farmed, and you're letting everybody else kind of handle the branding and marketing, seeing how they're doing it. You can see all those opportunities and then take the best of what you like to apply it to your own brand. So, I'm really interested, what led to the decision to focus on cultivation, and how did you get that knowledge?
I think cultivation is something that we truly understood from the beginning. Like I said, I gained that knowledge in LA and Denver, working commercial cultivations out there. And then when I came to Michigan, we obviously built this facility out here, and we've been running it for a good 3 years now. And same thing out in California. A lot of it was trial by error, like you're talking about. We've definitely made some hard mistakes before, but we've learned, we've persevered, and I think we've done a really incredible job of making sure that our cultivations are putting out a phenomenal product and consistent as well.
Yeah, you're not really successful in this business unless you've made a few mistakes and learned from them over the years. And we've definitely gone through our lumps and gotten better from them.
Honestly, every time that you talk, Vinny, I'm just looking over your shoulder at the grow on the screen there. It's like, that looks like a fun place to go take a tour. We actually,
early second week.
Ben, we might have to reach back out to you. We did a virtual grow tour with Seed and Smith out in Colorado, and it's one of our best episodes. So we might be looking to do a few more of those if you can hone your iPhone skills.
Oh, absolutely. You're always welcome.
Very cool, guys. So let's talk about the markets that you're in. So you talked about being in Colorado. Are you still there, or is that operation no longer going? Because most of what I see you guys doing is in Michigan and California.
Yeah, that operation is no longer going, but it was a great learning experience for us getting out there in an already mature market. I think it helped us a lot with California and Michigan. But yeah, currently we're just California and Michigan right now.
Which two great markets. So I've been referencing this article probably 100 times since it came out, but the Motley Fool came out with an article with the top 10 cannabis markets in 2020. It was like a week before 2020 ended, so it was estimates. But number one market, obviously no surprise, was California, with number 3 being Michigan at $1.21 billion. I think it was either $300 or $400 million in recreational, and then the remaining in medical, which is absolutely incredible. I didn't even realize that Michigan's market was that big. You all started in California, expanded back to Michigan. Does a lot of what you're doing in California translate to Michigan? And do you think Michigan's going to start to take shape after California as it matures, especially now that they're kind of redoing everything there?
For sure. I think we'll see Michigan over the next 2 years transition to where California's at now, where it's more branding focused, marketing, all that kind of stuff. I mean, some of these companies' marketing budgets are insane to look at. You're talking $500,000 a year. But we'll see a slow, gradual change in Michigan for sure.
Yeah, but you're also talking about two different markets too. Michigan is
Yeah.
essentially just hit the reset button 3 years ago versus California, obviously very mature market with a lot of brands, a lot of territory to cover. Michigan for us has been really good to get our own brands out there. Make sure we're pushing the High Life, Wana, and Kiva brands quite a bit.
So I want to get into those partnerships because I love all those brands. But so here's something, and I'll be the one to piss off and start the religious arguments here, not you guys. But when you look at California, because there is a legacy cannabis market and a lot of legacy cannabis consumers, you know, high THC percentages tend to rule out there, right? And we look at the general consumer that's in the market, not the general cannabis consumer that came from the black market or has been in the legal market for a while, but the general public that we're all trying to target. You know, they have the term out there, kind of curious and everything else like that. The people that we're trying to educate on cannabis, a 28, 35% THC product is going to fuck them up, right?
Sure.
So, you know, we look at other things, and I think when you look at a market like Michigan, because it doesn't have that huge California reputation for having the best bud and, you know, starting out kind of before everybody else, I think there's an opportunity in Michigan to re-educate the public and bring in new consumers with some low THC products, with some high terpene products, with different topicals and tinctures and edibles and different things. Whereas, you know, I think a lot of, and I'm 100% stereotyping here, but I believe a lot of California consumers are really looking at high THC flower, which, don't get me wrong, I appreciate that as well too. But my parents, my grandparents, you know, older friends and family aren't there. So do you see an opportunity in Michigan to bring in a larger audience with a more eclectic group of products versus kind of how California is really kind of sticking to their roots? Or am I just crazy here?
I think so. The question you're asking really is Michigan more high THC focused versus, you know, broad spectrum and everything else.
You know, like when we read medical, we read arguments in you know, articles and Forbes and all these things about how it's cannabis can be used for wellness and medicinal purposes and everything else. But you know, high THC products necessarily don't cover that whole gambit. So yeah, I mean,
No, for sure.
is it still do high THC strains still dominate, or are you seeing the ancillary products and the new wave of products starting to take over as well?
Is my least favorite answer, but absolutely high THC products still dominate. And the hardest part about not having a ton of retail presence out here in Michigan and just being a wholesaler, you have to have high THC to sell to these dispensaries or these brokers out in California. That's really the main selling point, and it's super unfortunate because you're right, the wellness aspect and the full terpene profile and entourage effect of cannabis is really what makes it great. High THC is awesome too, but it's not what should sell cannabis specifically.
Yeah, we agree. Here in California, that's our main driver is high THC. We try to focus in between like 26 to 35% THC. And I mean, that really creates the pricing within the market as well, which is kind of the Michigan starting to see as well, stratification between THC levels and price. But yeah, I mean, it's all about education, people like you getting out there and educating the people. But it's definitely a long shot that it's not going to end up like California, to be honest.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's interesting, and I have a fear, and you know, it's not the end of the world, but I think that's just going to kind of dominate for a while as companies are focusing on the legacy cannabis consumers in the cannabis market because that's what they need, right? And that's the people that are automatically coming in the door. They don't really need the education, and they're going to buy your products. I mean, it's funny when I look at the cannabis market or the industry as a whole. What I want for the industry is the kind of the opposite of what I want as a consumer, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm a legacy cannabis consumer. I enjoy smoking joints. I enjoy some high THC strains. I actually enjoy some low THC strains for the daytime, or if you're going to a party, you want to be more social or anything else like that. But I've also started to educate myself on terpene profiles and everything else, like you've said. And I think that education is lacking. But I also believe, not lacking, but I also believe that those products is what's going to pull the general consumer into our industry. Like you're not going to get someone who doesn't smoke anything to smoke a joint, or it's going to be harder than to get them to try a cannabis beverage or to get them to try a tincture and an edible, right? Because some people might be opposed to just smoking, right? But they want to try cannabis. So do you think that's going to do we hope? I don't want to say do you think, because at this point, you guys are addressing the market that's available to you. You got to make money, you're a business. But is the hope that as we pull in more general consumers, the eclectic mix of products is going to be more popular?
Yeah, I think we're going to get there for sure. I mean, our biggest segment right now with potential is like you said, people have never set foot in a dispensary, and then when they go in, they averagely spend $200 or $300 right now. So I mean, we're trying to appease those people right now with low dose edibles like Kiva makes the Petromint, which I believe is 2.5 milligrams. So it's a good starting entry point for people that are trying to get into this.
So three big brands that you guys have partners with: Kiva, Keef, and Wana. Is that correct?
Yep.
Sure.
Awesome. So how do you go about starting those partnerships? Do those originate in California?
As we I don't know, we're working around throughout the industry over the years between California and Denver. Obviously, we got to know all the other operators out there, and California, obviously we met Kiva out there, and when we were working in Denver, we ran into the people at Wana and Keith as well, and started those relationships.
Yep.
Very cool.
I remember sneaking back into a cannabis convention back in the day to try to catch a meeting with Kiva. That's how we first got our introduction to them. So
Nice.
I mean, it worked out.
So one of the ones I'm really excited about, and anybody who watches this show knows I'm really big on the beverages sector, because going back to my earlier point, right, is you're going to smoke in public. And I literally had this conversation with somebody today. You take a joint, for example. I go out to a restaurant, I'm in public, I'm in a park. As soon as I spark it, the people around me know I'm smoking it. There's smoke, it's invasive. I've already come to the conclusion that I'm never going to be able to spark a joint wherever I want, the same way a cigarette smoker can't light up wherever they want just because it's invasive. So I look at the future of cannabis consumption, and you look at it from being at a party or being at a bar, and a drink or an edible obviously fits that situation better. The problem with edibles is they take a little bit longer to act on you than drinks. So where, you might have an edible before dinner, you may not feel the effects till after dinner, right? Where drinks are typically 10, 15, 20 minutes. So you get a drink before dinner comes. By the time you're starting to feel the effects, it's a lot more similar to alcohol. I even talked about being at a party. Even today, nobody cares if you smoke a joint, but you're most likely grabbing someone, going around the corner, going away from everybody so you don't bother them. Whereas if you had a beverage or some other kind of form of consumption, you can still be in the mix of things and consume it. So I truly believe that beverages are going to be the future. I imagine the partnership with Keith, if you guys feel the way that I do, is really exciting.
Yeah, it definitely has been an exciting partnership. Keith is a partner out here in Michigan right now. The unfortunate thing about that partnership is Michigan has totally stopped anybody from making drinks over the past 3 years here. So we were R&Ding and doing all of our testing and validations with Keith in 2017, but the state has not released any rules on drinks up until about a week ago. So right now, people in the drink market in Michigan are going to start coming out, but we've been trying to make beverages here for years, but the state just hasn't come out with the rules to let us do that.
From a consumer standpoint, how do you guys feel about beverages? I mean, put the whole fact that you run a cannabis company away. What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, it's kind of hit or miss for me, to be honest. I don't really associate cannabis with drinking beverages and stuff like that. It's our smallest market segment, but like you're saying, I do believe that it's going to become more popular because, like you said, it's stigmatized to smoke in public. So like we see in these quick onset strips, gummies, all these types of things are going to make a huge dent in the market over the next couple of years.
So one of our former guests on this show, Sarah Stewart, she does consumption lounges, and one of the areas she works in is Michigan. Do you think Michigan's going to do anything about consumption lounges, and do you see those coming in the near future?
I actually have to look more into it because they absolutely passed a law allowing consumption lounges, but I know nobody has officially opened one up yet. So I don't know what's really stopping people at this point from doing that. But the state has absolutely come out with rules allowing consumption lounges to exist.
Well, that's going to be fun.
Sure.
it's interesting. I love companies like yours because when we looked at the initial wave of multi-state operators, there was a fear that they grew too big too fast, and some of them proved that point. And I talk a lot of shit about a lot of them on the show, unfortunately. But I always look to the next wave of people operating in multi-states, the ones that kind of stayed in their state, focused on what they did well, and then kind of slowly moved into other states. Similar to how you guys went from California, Michigan, you expanded to Colorado, you learned your lesson there. It wasn't great for business. You got out of there. Are there plans for you to continue to expand into other states, or are you just going to focus on California and Michigan for a while, make sure that you do what you do well before you move on?
Right now, I think we're going to focus on California and Michigan. I mean, it's tried and true for us. And as well, I mean, this entire project for us is self-funded, so we haven't taken on any financing from anyone else. So we tend to move a little bit slower than others, but we'd like to be sure of what we're doing before we expand. But yes, there's plenty of room for expansions in the states we're in.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I think the best thing for us to do is move slowly and make sure we're doing everything well and precise versus a lot of these other companies we see open up very quickly and do a lot off the bat, and it doesn't end up going well. So yeah, I prefer to take things slow and make sure that we're really perfecting these two states before we decide to take on another project right now. Another thing for us is just being a family business. We're the managers. We have a very small core group of people that run all these things. So for us to expand to another state, it's just going to take away from our focus in these states right now. And there's so much opportunity here.
I could have sworn you were going to say, in order for you to expand in another business, you need to have kids and grandkids so you can keep it a family. But
oh yeah, absolutely, that's in the works too.
Yeah. Not far off.
Very cool. Very cool, guys. So let's get into the other 20% of your business. So we mentioned that 80% of your business is wholesale, 20% of your business are the brands that you guys are coming out with. Ben, it seems like you say a lot of those brands are getting more of the attention in Michigan. I learned from Kevin, the Cannabinoid Connect podcast, that your family crest is actually in the logo as well too, which keeps it cool because it really truly does make it a family business so far that you have your crest on your brand. What kind of brands are you guys coming out with? How has that been, launching new brands? I've seen them in the Michigan market. I haven't seen what you're doing in California. How is that different from what you've done so far? Is it a completely new business, or is it just a matter of kind of introducing what you already know and just putting it around the great products you make already?
I think it's a mix of introducing what we already know and expanding our marketing efforts and branding, to be honest. We make some high quality chocolates right now that I think are the best in the market. We just got to get them out there and push our name more. And that's what we're focused on in 2021.
Very cool. And then Ben, you named one of the brands after your dog, right?
I did name one of the brands after my dog. Chief Solventless. We just recently launched a full solventless line. So we're doing bubble hash, cold cure, rosin, and then we're about to launch some solventless pens as well.
Cool. So is this the first foray into extraction for you, or is that something you've been doing for a while?
No, it actually is. I've never gotten to hydrocarbon extraction. I've always been a real, just into flower. Flower's always been my favorite. Concentrates I do always like, but recently, just getting into the idea of being able to kind of capture all the true essence of the resin and the terpenes in the hash rosin has been really cool to kind of dial in and get used to, especially on a large scale. And especially in a state too right now that doesn't have a lot of good concentrates out there. Over the past 3 years here, it's just been really not a lot of good stuff on the shelves. And to be able to put something out that we truly know tastes good and is coming from high quality resin is cool to put out there to people.
Very cool, man. Just operating a cannabis company in general has got to have its joy, but knowing that you're putting some of the best quality products into the market has got to feel great. So is the plan to really, at least in Michigan, start to focus more on your own brands? Wholesaling is great and white labeling, and you only have to take it so far, but to truly establish yourself in a market, brand recognition is big. So I imagine there's going to be a lot of focus on that going forward.
Yeah,
yep, that's what 2021 is all about. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Vinny, but
we're related. It's going to happen naturally.
Our focus is on retail this year and making sure we're pushing all of our high life brands and really getting our name out there as much as we can.
Very cool. So, Vinny, you handle more of the business development marketing side, right?
Yes, correct.
So, what are, have you found a lot of challenges starting to now market your brands and market your product? It's one thing with B2B sales when, you can go to conferences and kind of figure out, guerrilla ways of doing it. But now when you're trying to reach consumers, you've got blocks on social media, you've got blocks on Google Ads. There's not really geo targeting or anything else. Has it been difficult to navigate that landscape?
Sorry, you cut out for 1 second there. Can you repeat the initial question?
Basically saying with all the restrictions that you have in marketing a cannabis brand, paid social media, Google ads, can't really do geo targeting and things like that. Has it been a challenge to navigate the marketing landscape? You do come from regulated industries, so you might be used to that, but cannabis is crazy with the things that they regulate.
Yeah, it's been difficult competing with the other brands out there. I think there's something like 1,100, and a lot of these guys deal with terms and payment issues and all these types of things. So focusing on cultivation and wholesale selling has allowed us to actually grow our brand just by cash flowing quicker, if you will. So everything's been much easier on that end. But we're looking forward to trying to break into the California market. So we're gonna do our best this year with creating a marketing budget. We just brought a new PR team on. So we're really trying to make that push this year to become a successful brand in California.
So we can give them a shout out. You brought on the PR team, so I'm very excited that you're going to be working with them. Big fan of that company as well. But it's going to be really cool to see your journey. You have a lot of relationships already. You have a lot of doors open to you. People know your products with other labels, obviously. So it's going to be interesting to see the adoption of what you're doing. But Vinny, you actually got a little disproportionately affected by the regulations in the cannabis space. And I learned something, listening to a conversation that you had that I didn't even know that apparently, and I don't mean to call out your personal business here, but if you own a cannabis license, it's almost impossible to get a mortgage. That's happened to you?
Yeah, I mean, I've figured out a solution since then. I mean, you got to find private lenders, but any commercial bank or anything like that, I think I tried about 30 different ones, and they wouldn't read past me owning the cannabis business. They didn't look at any of my assets or cash. It was just a
See, that's
moot
the
point.
crazy part to me. We fight and we fight and fight, and you hear about the lobbying and everything else just to give the cannabis industry access to the financial markets. But there's really not a spotlight on the people who are working in the industry or the owners or the investors and the issues that they're having, right? I know people that are in this space, they lost their personal bank accounts, they lost bank accounts for family members and things like that. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
I've had friends in this industry that are from, say, foreign countries or something like that, who've been on a citizenship track for the last decade or so, lived there since they were children. But since they worked in the cannabis business, they were denied citizenship, put to the bottom of the pile. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that need to be changed at the legislative level here. I believe first is the Safe Banking Act. We need to get that resolved so everyone can get proper financing and banking and all those types of things. So we're not subject to predatory lending and those types of things.
No, 100%. I know banks charge ridiculous fees and everything else, the ones that will actually work with you. On that note, between each of you, what would you both like to see in the cannabis industry in 2021? But, obviously access to the banking is one of them, but are there any other major regulations that are really kind of preventing you from growing faster?
Yeah, I would say reform of 280 as well, or the way we're taxed here. So we need to be on a normal tax structure because the way it is, I mean, cannabis companies are struggling to make a dollar at the moment. I mean, you see a lot of these companies that are out there that look huge, but they're fighting for every dollar that they make.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that behind the scenes for sure. Just kind of moving forward, guys. One of the things I really like about you and I really like about this industry is a lot of. I think this industry is different. Listen, I could be wrong, and yes, do we have the same problem that some of the other industries have? Yes, but we're working on them. We're recognizing them. We're calling them out. One of the nice things about this industry is it seems to be very charitable and it seems to kind of take care of their own, whether it's other people in cannabis, whether it's someone like the Last Prisoner Project, dealing with nonviolent cannabis offenders, or whether it's just cannabis companies giving back within their own community. And I think we saw a lot of that during COVID-19 with the cannabis companies being deemed essential and being able to open their doors. This was a year where, I called at the beginning of the year. I said, we're on probation. The eyes are on us and they want to make sure that we're going to do everything right. And as long as we do that, it's going to be very good for the industry. I say we, like I'm doing shit in the industry. I just sit behind a webcam and a microphone. But, companies like yourself were able to operate, we're able to make money, we're able to grow. And I think it's cool that everybody started giving back. So you actually have the Celani Family Foundation. And I saw that you guys did something really cool for Thanksgiving. You partnered with a Detroit charity, Hunger Free in the D, and you fed like 110 families or something like that.
And you can speak about that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was up here in Chesney. We ended up partnering with the local grocery store. Actually, the 110 meals was through that. We did a turkey giveaway for a lot of people out
Did
here.
I combine two stories?
You did combine two stories. Okay,
that happens.
Yeah, they both happened around the same time. So, but yeah, obviously everybody is having a tough time right now, and whatever we can do to give back during the holidays. But the other event was called Hunger Free in the D, and it's a partnership with Gleaners and Capuchin Soup Kitchen. And anyways, basically, we'll match half of the money up to, I believe, 500,000.
Yeah, it was either 500 or 750.
Yeah, something like that. But anyways, I think we ended up feeding over 1 million families this year through the Gleaners and Capuchins through that donation.
So, I asked the question to everybody, you ever think you'd be in cannabis and making a career out of it? And, the same response comes from everybody. I never thought it. I was a lawyer. I was this, I was that. I don't want to ask you that question, but did you ever think you'd be able to give back to the community the way that you're doing by being in the cannabis industry? I mean, when you were younger, when you're around it and everything else, do you ever think that this plant would give you the ability to take care of so many people?
No, but our father instilled a big sense of charity into us. I mean, we grew up watching him support schools, hospitals, all types of different things. Anything that's local community. So I put a strong sense of giving back to our community of what we can do within the cannabis industry. I mean, we weren't able to do as much as Ben was back in Michigan, but I mean, we did a collective trash pickup day out here where we picked up almost 2,000 pounds of trash with all of our employees, and which was nice.
In your defense, and you don't have to comment on this, his state is not nearly as locked down as your state is. So
yeah, that's correct.
More opportunity to do some stuff.
But a rough 8 months or 10 months, whatever it is now.
Charity in the state of California would probably just involve getting people outside of their house at this point.
That would be correct.
So, but I can, along that note, even just beyond, giving back to the community and everything that you guys are doing from a charity standpoint, I scroll through your Instagram, and the cool thing is, this might sound terrible to YouTube, but I don't see YouTube. I don't see all just family members and everything in the focus there. I see a lot of employee spotlights, which is really, really cool. I think more cannabis companies should do that. So I scroll through the Instagram, at least the one in Michigan, because that's the one I found first. And, there was a female bud tender talking about her story. There was another grower talking about how he uses it for pain and everything else. I mean, not only is that a great marketing strategy, but I think it just kind of really sheds a light on what this industry is about and the people that are in it. What gave you the idea to really just spotlight the employees of the company on your social media?
Well, it's really easy. Our employees are really the most important thing to us, and they take care of us and make sure that everything here is happening and going really well. People here are my favorite part about this. So yeah, just showing how the day-to-day works here and the really special people that actually make this stuff happen behind the scenes. I don't know, like you said, a lot of cannabis companies don't give those people the recognition. So I think it's really important for us to show, these people that are putting in the true hard work back there and making it all happen day to day.
Yeah, and it's really a 24-hour effort. I mean, we have two shifts of trimmers here that start in the morning, one at night. Our grow team gets here at 3 a.m. So they're really the unsung heroes of all of this. We just kind of provide the big picture, and they help us with the rest.
That's awesome, man. Well, I couldn't imagine getting into the cannabis business in general, but doing it with family, it's got to be, it's got to be incredible. It's got to be a whole lot of fun to be able to do that. Like you said, all you guys really talk about is cannabis now. It's funny, I do that too, except for the fact that nobody really gives a shit about what I'm saying because they're not in the industry. So, I would love to join a Celani family Thanksgiving one of these years and hear the conversations, but we'll get a little bit closer before that happens. Gentlemen, we've been talking for quite a long time here. I don't want to hold you up too much and see you've got a beautiful look. Someone's trimming.
Yeah.
I hope he's supposed to be in there. You weren't lying 24/7, 7:15 at night. Oh wait, no, it's California.
Yeah, we're sold pretty early here. 4:30 for us almost.
I mean, that's the Michigan grow, of course. People are working late. No, but it's got to be really cool to do what you guys do. So let's kind of, we talk about what happened and everything else. Looking forward, what are you guys most excited about for your company and the industry this year? One at a time here.
I think just growing our own internal brands. The edibles that we produce are incredible. So pushing that forward and just branding Highlight Farms and making us successful in Michigan and both California.
Ben, anything to add?
I would just agree with everything Vinny said, obviously. And yeah, just consistency across the board, making sure that we're really doing a great job as we're expanding and providing as much great product as we can in the market.
Very cool. Well, I'm excited to see what you guys do in Michigan. I'm excited to see you break into the California market. Well, not break into it, but have your brands break into it and see what you can do there. And, I hope to have you guys back in 6 months and talk about all the great success that you've had and maybe some new family members that are joining the team. So, gentlemen, before I let you go, let's get any promotional, any social media handles out there, websites where people can buy your products. Let's do it all.
All right. Our Instagram for California is Highlight Farms CA, and Michigan has been
Highlight Farms, Michigan, and you can find all of our products on Weed Maps. That's the best source to do it. You can also check out our website as well, highlightfarms.com.
Very cool. Gentlemen, it was a pleasure to have you. Thank you. And thank you to everybody at home. Like I said, February 6th, annual C-Lab conference. It's either virtual or in person. Go to joinclab.com to check that out. It is not one that you're going to want to miss. We have our panel, Meet the Leadership, tomorrow night. Again, that is at joyclab.com. And if you missed any part of this interview and you'd like to check it out, it'll be live on our YouTube page and all of our audio platforms next week at youtube.com/elevateyourgrind. This has been another episode of Elevate Your Grind. We'll see you next week.